Hello everybody, iGamer here. We made it to 200. First of all, I gotta say thank you. I never expected I would ever get here. I wouldn't be here without all the support of everybody who's subbed and everybody who's graciously watched the content that I put out, even if it is subpar. Once again, you will see that I am going to be in a spectator match, and yes, the title is as you see it. I am going to rank the factions going from worst to best. This is biased, this is of my own opinion, but again, it's an opinion. You know, take it with a grain of salt, don't take it as law. Feel free to tell me what you think. But anyways, let's get right into it. First off, the worst faction we have, in my personal opinion, is the Knights. Because you only have to evade one particular thing about them, and you've essentially, to what most people believe, you have reduced their kit to nothing. Let me... Ah, dang it. Alright, anyways, but yes. So, the Knights, you just have to avoid one particular key factor about them, and you've beaten the character. The character is rendered mundane and unplayable after this very particular aspect. It's like, for Warden, you have to evade the shoulder bash, and you've beaten the character. For Peacekeeper, you have to avoid the dodge attacks, because that's where they get a lot of their bleed from. For Conqueror, you have to evade any one of his bashes.
Defenders captured Zone A.
Let's see here. Lawbringer, you have to avoid the shove, because that's where all of his pressure comes from.
Captured Zone B.
Well, that's where a good amount of his offensive pressure comes from. And for Gladiator, just avoid the toe stab. For... Oh, I see. For Centurion, you have to avoid his charged heavies, anyone that they may be. And for Blackbriar, you have to avoid the Bulwark stance. It's very simple to do. Once you've gotten around these aspects of the characters, you've essentially rendered them mundane. See right there. My roommate, actually, Chungus, didn't really have any effective area to go since he got since the Hitakiri dodged his bash. He had no pressure. He had no way to actually put damage on him. And then, like, it's essentially the way I view it is you've got Knights are one-trick ponies. You don't have to do much to win against them, and that small amount that you actually do is all it really takes to beat the characters. Second worst faction, in my opinion, I say this so that you guys know that it is biased, is the Wu Lin, because they're mostly dodge characters, and you can counter that by any character that has an undodgeable, or any character that's good for chasing. And each member of every faction has at least something that's good to chase. Like, for Knights, you have Blackbriar, or Warden's Valiant Breakthrough. For Vikings, you have Shaman, Warlord Zone. Let's see. Valkyrie is actually pretty good at chases, believe it or not. And then for the Samurai, you have Orochi, Kensei, As much as I hate to admit it, Shinobi. Let's see who else is there. That's all I can think of for the samurai right offhand, but do let me know if I missed one. And in the Wulin, there's their own faction members, which, you know, you have Tiandi, JJ, you have, believe it or not, Nusha, because she slows down anybody who's trying to get away from you.
Defenders captured Zone A.
Sorry, I'm kind of getting caught up in watching the match.
Captured Zone B.
But the idea is that if you have somebody who's got good tracking attacks or an undodgeable, you've got the Wulin in the palm of your hands. I mean, there's a couple that might give you trouble, like, still, like, even without the dodges, like JJ or Shaolin. But even then, like, it's not hard to deal with them, but it's hard to do it in the moment. Basically, it's the whole idea of easier said than done. And now we go to the top two factions. The two best factions, in my opinion, are the Vikings at the second, at the runner-up faction. Even though I'm sick and tired of seeing them winning every faction war, you can't really deny that their characters have some decent aspects. Like, you know, Raider's good for applying stamina pressure. Well, he was, until his stunning tap got removed for storming tap.
Defenders.
You've got his carry that can bring him either closer to a ledge, as much as I hate that aspect of ledging, or bring him into a gank where they have to sit down and essentially take the first hit or so that you give them. You've got Berserker, who's got some of the most powerful hyper armor in the game. You've got Yorm, who's got one mix-up, which is literally, if you want to start it up, you do light, punch, and then you do light, heavy, side unblockable, feint into the little gut punch, where you move back and press X, or move back and press square, or move back and left click, I think it is on PC. You've got Shaman, who heals off the bite. You've got Valkyrie, who's underrated in my opinion. You've got Warlord, who's absolutely amazing for stalling a point.
Attackers are breaking.
And finally, and their feats are pretty much just like a big middle finger. Like, you can't really argue that the feats that they have are just like a kind way to say fuck you. And I can get away with saying that because I'm not monetized yet. Now, anyway. And yes, that leaves last but not least the Samurai faction. Again, this is biased as I am a Samurai member. I firmly believe that Samurai are the best faction because I think it was Freeze who a while ago said that if you look at the Vanguards at the time, because this was before the Wulin got released, going from left to right, you have a bad Vanguard, a okay Vanguard, and a good Vanguard. Because Kensei has a lot he can do with his kit. He's got any variation of light or heavies. He's got a bash. He's got 2 moves to chase. His zone has really good clearance. Sorry, gotta take a drink real quick. He's arguably one of the better heroes to actually clear out minions. I mean, tied with him is Aramusha. Speaking of Aramusha, his kit may be small, but still, it's It's not the size of the kit that matters, it's how much you utilize the majority of it. That's why I, like, hate Wardens so much, is because to them, you've essentially gutted the character if, you know, they can't get their shoulder bash. Well, you know, that does help, but there's a lot more that they can do. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. And, like, we have Shigoki. As simple as the man is, he's extremely effective. His zone is good for pressure. It's alright for clearing minions. It ain't the best, but it's alright. His heavy unblockables do a lot of damage, and if you think that they're just gonna dodge it or parry it, just go for the Demon's Embrace. Since it's not a one-shot anymore, and he doesn't have his uninterruptible stance, which gave him super armor. I say super armor because there's always a lot of confusion between what super and hyper armor is. Super armor cannot be interrupted, period. You could throw a feed at them, you could bash them, and they would still continue with what they're doing. It's what Shinobi had before they nerfed him into the ground, right where he belongs. Hyper armor can be interrupted by a bash or a feat, just anything that isn't a default attack. Even an unblockable won't interrupt hyper armor. They'll still have to tank it. Like, Shigoki still technically has super armor, because if he does his golf swing, he's forced to deal with whatever you're throwing at him. But you have to wait until he's already connected with the swing. You can't just, you know, go at it. Because if you try to do it before the swing, then he's going to get interrupted and no golf swing, and you can, and yada yada. But anyways, Orochi. Not the best clearing, but, you know, he's got some clearing. He's got good pressure, he's fast, he's got a lot of ways to get into his attacks. His Riptide Strike, I think it is, which is the backstep heavy.
Defender.
No, that's the backstep light. Whichever one is the backstep heavy is essentially what he has to get into a lot of his kit.
Attackers captured Zone C.
Well, it doesn't really get into a lot of his kit, but it certainly helps him function. His deflects are by far the most powerful if you use Slip Through. If not, then you have Nusha, who takes the most powerful deflect at 40 damage. And that's for her light, which is the only deflect she has. Let's see, then you have Nobushi, who gets a flat-out damage buff because you decided somebody wanted to make the choice of not blocking or parrying one of your bleed attacks. As much as I hate the character Shinobi, he's kind of like that one outlier that just, I really don't like. I can't pick out anything good to say about him. Because, like, I've almost, as you've probably seen, I've invested a lot of time in Aramusha. But I just like I like his character because you can soft feint, you can mix up, and if you think people are trying to, like, out-mind game you, and you just let that second heavy fly, because they decided to take 45 damage. That's 2 bars of HP on a heavy, because they thought you were going to try and mind game them and go to either the top or the other side or that side or yada yada. He's got his Blade Blockade, which has a lot of options, although I don't like one aspect of it. Well, actually there's 2 aspects of it I don't really like. The little nose boop or ring the bell, you have to do immediately. You can't delay that at all. Okay, that was spicy. But, like, his kick, which, if you're near a wall, you can get a free wall splat off of it and get a free side heavy. The second aspect I don't like about his, Blade Blockade is that top heavy afterwards, that is blockable. That is under 300 MS. How does anybody have time to block that? That's my question. It's by far the fastest attack in the game. Sorry, I had to take another drink there. It's the fastest move in the game, but you can still block it. How is this possible? And then there's just his unblockable side heavy, which nobody really ever throws. It's just kind of there as a placeholder, in my opinion. Like, it's not really there to achieve anything, it's just kind of there to, you know, be another move he has in his kit.
Captured Zone A.
And then there's Hitakiri, who was a menace, but not as big of a menace as Centurion was during launch. He had the infinite hyper armor, he had Heavy on red. His fourth feat still causes some issues because it's an insta-kill, but if you look at all the other fourth feats, they can achieve pretty similar things. They make your lifespan very, very short. Like, Fire Flask, while it doesn't outright kill you, it's gonna suck if you get hit by it. Or like Highlander's Spear Storm. Or the Catapult, or you get the idea. It sucks to get hit by a fourth feat. One that actually classifies as a strike, which is where Black Prior comes in and just says, haha, ad profundis. But you get the idea. Like, in my opinion, Samurai are the best possible fucking faction because they have a lot they can do. There's more to their kit than just like one little trick like the Knights, or it's like, you know, a couple things like the Vikings, and you're not forced to ledge with them because of their obscene throw distance. There's actually a lot of mix-ups you can do with the characters, but nobody wants to see that because, you know, Samurai have won not very much. Yes, that has been my ranking for the worst to best faction. This is biased. Yes, I am aware. I said this a few times. I'm just hoping that, you know, don't take this with a grain of salt, because, once again, it is biased. But, yes, I hope you guys will have something to add to this, or, you know, add your own little rankings and reasons why down in the comments. And I hope you guys will continue to subscribe and tell your friends about this, because I would not have been able to reach the area where I am without you guys, even though I feel that some of my subs were undeserved, because I just simply said, hey, I have a channel, and you sub. But I appreciate it nonetheless. This has been IA Gamer. We will see you